So, in this video, I'll be looking at this dungeon here in Kul Tiras, in Tiragath Sound, Freehold. Now, using the approach I'm going to show you here, you can extract more raw gold from this dungeon than any other, at least for short periods. You will encounter problems and waste your time if you don't use the correct method I'm going to explain here. So I'd recommend watching this video all the way through at least once. You will miss a gargantuan chunk of gold if you just run through the dungeon and kill stuff randomly. So first, we gather up the pirates on the lower level on our mount, zigzagging through all the mobs to aggro them, as I'm demonstrating here. Run up the stairs here and take all the mobs into this hut, and hug the left-hand side as you enter. Now what this does is what we call line of sight the ranged NPC mobs running after you. Line of sighting a ranged mob means they can't attack you from range, so they have to run in very close to you. This is very important because your area of effect spells then hit the range mobs along with every other mob. If you don't do this, then you will get stray mobs all over the area that you'll have to chase down and kill individually, which is time consuming and messy. Now, on my mage here, this takes me about a minute to do in my eye level 273 gear. That's decent gear, but all of it can be obtained from non-competitive, non-rated play in a few days. You'll get about 100 raw gold from the mobs you've pulled. In addition, there'll generally be green items and trash items that will be worth anything from 10 to 100 gold. The average profit from this pack is around 150 gold. Now, once you've done that, you are right next to the first boss, and this provides us with a nice bonus. You should be able to kill the boss in under 30 seconds. He shouldn't trouble a maximum level player to any extent, but in order to kill him efficiently, make sure you interrupt his health regeneration ability. He drops 5 raw gold plus 2 blue items, which collectively can be vended from anything between 50 and 150 gold, though the average of the two items is closer to 75 gold. So it will take you roughly 1 minute and 30 seconds to earn an average of 225 gold. You can do this 10 times before instance lockout for a return of 2,250 gold in 15 minutes. That's actually the best return you can get from any dungeon, since all of the older dungeons from Mists of Pandaria, Warlords of Draenor and Legion had their gold drops nerfed. Normalizing these numbers to the full hour, that's 9,000 gold per hour, which is a rate of return which we haven't seen from raw gold since back in Battle for Azeroth, when Blizzard decided to nerf all the raw gold making opportunities. Now, of course, using other gold making methods, you can make a lot more than 9,000 gold per hour. In fact, I just uploaded an article to my Patreon where you can make literally thousands of gold in a couple of minutes using low-level alts. But as a raw gold farm, this method of farming Freehold is literally the best in the game right now. Here's a trick to dramatically speed this farm up. Before we start our farming session at Freehold, go to Broken Isles Dalaran using our Dalaran Hearthstone. Once there, we go to this point and talk to the Archmage and select the option Betrayer's Rise. Port into the dungeon and teleport out. Now go to Freehold and do a run as I described earlier. When you finish the run, you can teleport back to Gul'dan, attack him, and use any ability which can drop combat and teleport out, such as Invisibility, Feign Death, or Shadow Melt. This teleports you right outside Freehold and resets all your cooldowns. There's a huge damage per second difference for, say, a mage who can use Time Warp on every run and one who can't. If you don't have an ability to drop combat or your cooldowns aren't as important to your class's damage, simply teleport out. Now there's a few other ways to increase your returns beyond the 9,000 gold per hour figure. First, it is worth pointing out you can get a sizable amount of Tidespray linen and deep sea satin from this farm. These items can be sent to a tailor alt and turned into items which can then be vended for a small profit. In practice, it is going to be easier just to put the items on the auction house. assuming the auction house is actually working by the time you read this. As since the auction house was recently changed to be region-wide for commodities, materials like this sell very quickly indeed if they are competitively priced. Second, it's worth pointing out that if you have skinning, the animals in the first pack can actually be skinned and yield a small but significant amount of blood-stained bones and other mats, which yield at least another 20 to 30 gold per run. Again, in theory, these can be sent to a leather worker and turned into items which can then be vended, which would make this a pure raw gold farm. Again, in practice, you can probably just put them on the auction house, and assuming it's working, they should sell very quickly. Now, in this video, I'm showing you everything I'm looting. When you're doing this yourselves, you'll want to use an add-on called Faster Loot, which makes looting instant and will save you a notable amount of time per run. You can count everything up later. Now, what if you want to farm longer than 15 minutes? Well, you can just kill everything in the dungeon. The problem is that DPS classes will struggle with survivability, and you could use a tank. My Blood DK can easily tank every mob in the dungeon, but you have the reverse problem there. Killing the mobs quickly isn't so easy. I actually tried pulling every trash pack in the dungeon, and it completely breaks the game. You get teleported all over the place. So if you want to try that, you'll have to pull every pack around each boss. Unless you have fantastic gear, you will probably struggle to get more than 90 to 100 gold per minute doing this. So what I'd recommend is doing the initial very efficient run up to the first boss and then doing another farm altogether. Fortunately, I'm preparing a guide to raw gold legacy raids currently, which will be one of my next videos, so you might want to subscribe for that. Additionally, the fastest way to make raw gold at the moment is to do your Covenant callings and world quests. This is much easier and much more fun than you might think if you know all the tricks to do this super fast and easily. I have a video about this which I'll show right at the end of this video. I'd recommend doing this before you farm freehold, as the gold returns can be as much as a normalized 30k gold per hour depending what quests are up at a given time. To state the blindingly obvious, as people generally do in the comments section, yes, you can buy tokens with real money, and that is faster than most forms of gold farming. The common argument being that you can work an extra hour at your day job or something. Personally, I don't like giving Bobby Kotick and his merry band of misogynists even more money, and I don't think gold farming in Warcraft is anything like a proper job. That's why I do this channel and not a proper job. In financial jargon terms, there is a false equivalence of utility there, which means in plain English that proper work really sucks and video games don't. Now, you may or may not agree with that, but raw gold farms have historically massively outperformed any other sort of gold making content I've published. So the Warcraft playing audience has made it very clear what they think. I do think, however, that people who focus on raw gold should be aware of the recent huge changes to the auction house and how much faster and easier it is to sell things now, as I'll be covering in subsequent videos. To cut a long story short, you can do almost any content in the game and sell something on the auction house almost instantly if it's a commodity. The changes to a large extent have turned every dungeon and raid in the game into something resembling an instant raw gold farm. That's assuming Blizzard managed to fix the serious bugs which are interfering with the system right now. Also bear in mind we have a ton of super powerful ways to make gold I could never talk about publicly on my super secret Patreon in the link below.